Hello, I thought I'd make a quick video to talk about different tunings for the fifth string on your banjo, sometimes called the drone string. If you get the banjo out of the box and you tune it to open G, which is like your typical bluegrass or folk tuning, your fifth string is going to be in a high G, which is the same as your first string up to the fifth fret. It's a very versatile note because that note it kind of drones on because you're basically breaking up those quarter notes with the eighth note in that G, and it just sort of sneaks in the melody. It's not very important because it's that eighth note, so it just kind of hides in the background, but it adds rhythm, and it's really good for the rhythm. But being a G, it also works really well with E minor. That's because E minor has all the same chords as G major. And so that, of course, that G note works really well with that. It also works really well with C major. That's because the G chord in C major is part of that whole 1-4-5 thing. I don't know the exact math behind what makes it work. I just know that if it's one of the 1-4-5, then it works really well. And of course, the sister scale of C is A minor, so the G also works really well. But it gets weird when you're in D major, and there's a lot of country songs in D major, a lot of fiddle songs in D major, and you can, if you're in a hurry, you can kind of get away with not changing it from G. It's going to sound a little discordant, but if you don't hit it very, the fifth string very hard. That's a little off. So what you want to do is you have a couple options. The first thing you can do is get one of these tuners, any tuner that clip on is always really nice, but always get any kind of tuner. You don't want to be doing this by ear, and tune that G up to an A. Now play that D scale again. That D works a lot better with the A. And of course, if you're in A major, which just so happens to work nicely if you're using a capo. And I'll talk more about capos, the pros and the cons of that with the drone string in a bit here. But let's say you're real quick, you just want to go into A because someone's playing an A and you want to make sure that drone string's an A. Stays tuned. There we go. And it should be the same as the fifth string all the way up to the seventh fret. That should be an A. Your drone string should be an A. Now, if you're fortunate enough to get a banjo or be able to that has these railroad spikes, or if you're good enough, I'm going to tune down to G. You don't have to always retune it. You can just take these little railroad spikes, and I'm going to zoom in here and see if you can see it. There you go. And what that is it's a little bit of a piece of metal that kind of juts out and kind of bends over and allows you to take the string and just kind of stick it underneath that railroad spike. Now it's an A, sorta. Little asterisks. It's not always perfect, but so. Sounds good enough though, right? So also B minor is a good scale for that. But then you get a lot of other weird scales too. Like I have a railroad spike that's right here on the 7th, 8th, 9th, or sorry, yeah, the 7th, the 9th, the 10th. And usually that covers most everything because you don't always have to get the bass note of a scale. Sometimes the 6th or the 5th will work depending on the song or the key that you're in. And it really just takes some playing with to find out what works. So, for example, I'm going to use a railroad spike here on the 9th fret, which is really convenient if I'm fretting on the 4th. And I write a lot of songs capoed at the 4th, so having that drone string on a B note, which is the same as your first string going up to the 9th. But there's some caution because once you start getting really liberal with this capo, you risk putting the banjo out of tune, because if I just simply throw the capo on this, and it's really cool, you get this nice, but everything starts getting weird and out of tune. And by the way, that kind of works because on the 5th string, because the capo is also pressing the 5th string, which, you know, it makes it work. But if you look at this with the tuner, like I'm going to strike that first string, and now I'm in like A sharp sharp territory, and next string is like little, like, see if you can see that, it's in the yellow here. So all the notes are a little sharp because what's happening is the capo is starting to really bend down on the strings. Now I know they make some really good banjo specific capos, but you know, it takes, you know, a little practice getting it to press real nicely down without bending the strings. But yeah, you can also, just like you can capo, if I'm playing up here on the, you know, just say playing on the 12th fret, and I bar all 5 strings. So it's the drone string is very versatile, and you can play a lot of different songs with it in a lot of different keys, and you have different choices whether it's tuning or whatever. You can also tune it down. So for example, if I'm playing in that B minor, I could tune it down a half step to F sharp. And then I get really creative and throw capo on the 2nd, and it sounds a little more spooky, but it really just depends on the composition of the song, what works best. But yeah, the important thing to take away is whether you're tuning or you're using railroad spikes, or if you're using a capo or your finger, you can change the note of the drone string, or the 5th string, depending on what you want to call it. Just one note, be careful. I've made the mistake of tightening it too tight, trying to get up to B or C territory, and when I did that, I snapped the string, and nobody was happy with that. Well, maybe my dog was happy. He didn't have to hear banjo music for a little while. But anyway, I hope that helps anybody out.